Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, still not in front of my bookshelves. In order to get more videos out, I have to film all over my house to get it done. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But today I have my June wrap up for you guys. I didn't even do all the research for the stats and all that. Wrap ups, like many other YouTubers, are kind of my least favorite video to film here, but I read 11 books in the month of June and did participate in Romanceathon and ended up reading one book for Strangeathon and DNFing another one. Was in a little bit of like a book reading slump, but still managed to get 11 books done, so I don't know if it's really a reading slump, but physically, yes, I was in a reading slump physically. So a lot of these were audiobooks. And let's just get to the first book here. The first book that I read was actually one that I finished, that I started in May, and that was The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. I read, I don't know, like as I was reading, I gave it 3 stars, okay? And at first I was like, wow, this is really, really good. But then the more I think about it, the more it's like, yeah, this is not for me. Definitely look more into that book and what that book is about. If you're like interested in it, because it was a little bit like, while I was reading it, I was like, what am I reading? What am I reading? What the heck? So it wasn't for me. The content inside that book was just not for me. I do not condone what they were doing. I really liked the aspect of like the rich people and, her moving from a smaller town to a bigger city, trying to find a group of friends. So that's why it's still like 3 stars. And a lot of people are recommending it. So of course, if you want to give it a try, definitely still give it a try. And then the next book I read was another thriller, and that was Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. And I gave that 4 stars. It was really good, better than the last book that I read from her. I think it was called The Other Misses or something like that. And better than that for sure. Definitely look up the trigger warnings. There is a midwife in that book, and there's like a situation that goes on with the midwife, and I would not read this book while I was pregnant, because that was like really cringy and just like whenever I was reading it. But do recommend it, and yeah, like I said, 4 stars. There is 2 people that go missing in the beginning of the book, and then one of them comes back. The kid comes back, and it's one of those stories that's like, somebody goes missing and then they come back, and everybody wants to know what happened and how are they coping now that they're back after so long. That was really an interesting part of the story for sure. Then I was in a big romance mood, obviously, for Romanceathon. I actually read 2 romances before Romanceathon even started. So first one was Accidentally Engaged. I've been wanting to get this one for a little bit, and started physically reading it, and then I had to take it back to the library, so I didn't get to finish it in time. So then I picked up the audiobook, and it's a very cute book, not like sexy steamy, but definitely a very cute book about a girl, and her dad always puts her in these arranged marriages, and this arranged like relationships, marriages, and she just does not want it. She's like, no, Dad. Well, this time he actually moves the man into her apartment building and has him start working for him. So that was really interesting, her having to deal with that. It has a lot of bread baking and just like food aspects in it, and she has to be engaged to him in order to enter into this food competition. So that's why it's accidentally engaged. And then, of course, it's a love story. So, of course, they do eventually fall in love. And then the next book I read was One Last Stop. I read that for the Sugar and Spice Book Club. And the discussion has not happened yet, as far as I know. Might have happened by the time this video is posted. And this does have, at first it was getting really good reviews and hyped up, and then now I'm starting to see the mixed reviews, and I'm in that mixed reviews category. I gave this book a 3 stars. I was really excited for this one, especially with like the 70s, like time travel, stuck in time aspect of Jane, and it just kind of disappointed. I don't know if it's because it, first of all, it was insta-lovey, and she looked at Jane and was like, I'm in love with you. Like, it was very insta-lovey. A lot of like science with that and trying to figure out how to get Jane out like of the train. And also August is like really oblivious, doesn't even know that Jane likes her, just because, Jane said she can't go out for drinks. She literally could not because she was stuck on the train. And it was definitely too long of a book, but I definitely did like some parts of the book. I did like the roommates, but there just was a little bit too many characters. And then also I did like, where she worked. And then, she was in school, but not really, because I guess she was just like finishing a couple classes. I did like a little bit of the New York aspect. So yeah, likes and dislikes, like a solid 3 stars for me. All right, and then moving on to the books that I got finished for Romanceathon. So the first book I read for that was Like You Love Me by Adriana Locke, and I gave that book a 5 stars. At first I was like 4.5, and then I'm like, no, if you really enjoyed the book and couldn't find really anything wrong with it, that's a 5-star book. So it was a small town romance, and that was the one that was like out of my comfort zone. I've never read a small town romance. Well, now I'm hooked and I want more and more small town romances. I guess I read The Simple Wild. That was a little bit of a small town romance, but yeah, I definitely want more. And it is the first in the series, a new series called Honey Creek, and then it, like I said, is a marriage of convenience between Sophie and Holden. And Sophie owns a bed and breakfast, and I believe she took it over from her grandmother. And, she really wants to continue with this bed and breakfast, but the bills are piling up. She has some renovations to do on it. And then there is Holden, and they were friends, or like knew each other whenever they were younger. And he is a vet, and he comes back in town to help out his grandfather. And it was dual perspective, so got both of their perspectives. I really liked Holden. Like, he was there to help his grandfather, and he was trying to get he was just going to be there temporarily, and he was trying to get a job, I think, in Florida at this like bigger vet. And the person that was interviewing him was engaged previously, and the person that was interviewing him was like, I'm very happy you're engaged. I'm really happy that you're a family man and you're like a really good perspective for us. And he was like, I'm not engaged anymore. Crap. What am I going to do? And so then he fake engaged, and then fake marries Sophie. And the agreement is he's gonna give her money and help her, get this bed and breakfast into tip-top shape. And you know, get that going for her if she marries him. And that is basically the storyline for that. The second book I read was the third book in a series, The Right Swipe. I don't know the series, but the first book is The Right Swipe. And this third book that I read is called First Comes Like by Alicia Rye, and I gave that one a 3 stars. Definitely not my favorite of the series. I think, well, I really like the first and second one, but the third one just wasn't like, a favorite for me, but it was still very good. Would recommend reading that romance series for sure. And then I read Sunkissed by Casey West. That was a really cute summer romance YA. Takes place at a summer camp. It really had some of those summer camp aspects, bow and arrow and hiking and all of that stuff. I gave that 3 stars. It just wasn't really in the right mindset. I would say maybe it is like a little higher now. But still like a definite read for summer if you like to read YA romance. Then the last book I read for Romanceathon was Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. I rated that a 4.5. That was such a good book. I loved it so much, and I'm happy that I finally read it. It is about the main character. Over the summer, she goes to the Outer Banks with her mom. Her mom works for somebody where they go there every summer. She's like a personal assistant, and she really likes this girl. Her mom works for her father, and they have like a summer fling going on, and she really starts to like her. And for like 3 or 4 years, she's also really liked like the popular boy in school, and that's all she could ever talk about. Her friends are like, you always talk about him. You have this major crush on him. And then summer ends, and she thinks she's not going to see this girl again, whatever. She shows up at her school, and then the boy that she's been liking for years finally notices her and was like, hey, let's go to homecoming together. Let's, start hanging out. And she's like, what do I do now? So that was super fun. Really glad that I got to read that one. Perfect summer romance. And then I didn't read anything until Strangeathon. I tried to read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Wasn't really liking it or could really concentrate on it. And then I read Wilder Girls, and I gave that one a pretty solid 3 stars. It is like a YA dystopian, and there is like this virus, and it takes place at like a boarding type of school. It really does have a pretty good twist, and it was like pretty cute, a little bit creepy for sure, but just wasn't really my thing. But I still am interested in the second book by this author, Burn Our Bodies Down. Then the last 2 books of the month were some audiobooks that I listened to. I just wanted to get a couple more books in the month, and just really was in that like physically reading slump. So I just listened to a couple audiobooks, and the next one is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. And this book was a 5 stars, probably the best book that I read this month. It was a psychological thriller, like domestic thriller, and it was so good. It was on my summer TBR that I just uploaded, and I wish I would have read it last summer or read it really anytime. It's not really like a summer book, I would say, even though it does have a summery cover. And I'm just so glad I finally got to it. That's definitely going to be recommended to everybody. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but there is a girl, Amber, that moves to town, and she meets, this couple that she thinks she thinks that they have it all, when really you'll find out they don't. But this like really rich couple, and she's like, I really want their life. I wish I had that much money to spend. I wish I was that happy being his wife. And that's all I'll say about that, but definitely like stealing lives trope. And then the last book I read was another romance, and that was The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. I read the first book in this series, I believe in May, and that was so good. So I wanted to read another book by Sarah Adams, and this was definitely still very good. 4 stars. It does have a character in it from the first book, and she is pregnant, and the father is not really involved. And she doesn't really have anywhere to live. She's living with the character from the first book at the beginning, and she has a kid and her own life and everything, and she just feels like she's getting like in the way. And so she moves in with the character from the first book. She moves in with her brother, and then they end up having a romance, and he is actually an OBGYN, and so that was kind of funny. And yeah, well, one of the parts is where they stay, there's like a snake in the bathroom, and she just gets out of the shower and sees it, and then she's like, don't look at me, and he's like, I look at pregnant women all the time. And it was definitely a cute book, and I really want to read more by Sarah Adams for just a cute romance whenever I'm feeling like it. I think she has like 3 other books that are part of like a different series, and then I think she's coming out with like a new standalone. So I'm happy that I got to get to another one of her books. And that is all that I read in June. Hopefully I will read more in July, but 11 books is still a good amount. But I just have so many books that I want to read for the summer. If you've watched my summer TBR, you know that. But I did, The Last Mrs. Parrish was on that summer TBR, so I did take that one off of there. And thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.